There probably isn't a person that doesn't at some point ask me about negative intention. So our first session this afternoon is going to tackle the unmentionable. We all want to know how to stop thinking bad thoughts. If we're all leaky buckets, how do we stop sending out negative intention? And if we are leaky buckets receiving all the time and everybody else is a leaky bucket, how do we stop ourselves from receiving negative energy? So we're going to address that with a few, but I want you to think about a couple of concepts. First of all, the very simple concept that most negative intention is inside you. What you're receiving, most of what you think you're receiving is oftentimes your take on the situation. And also, most of us walk around in judgment. Most of us walk around with negative thoughts streaming through our heads. How many people in the audience think happy thoughts most of the time? Hands. More than usual, that's very good. Excellent. But as you noticed, the vast majority did not raise their hand because we all spend our time looking at the glass being half full. We all spend our time judging. It's a little internal monologue that goes something like, look how you muffed that one, you know, or my kid is really bad at maths, I wonder what I should do about it, that person doesn't like me, and on it goes, that internal monologue of negative thinking. So one of the first things you have to do is start becoming conscious of what it is that you're thinking. Now, I'm certainly not suggesting that you turn off thought. That will be almost impossible. It's been suggested in many quarters, but we're human. We were given cognitive thinking as a blessing or curse, and it is both at different times. But it's more about just stepping one step back to start observing what it is you're thinking. A very simple thing to do is just to start writing it down. Just take one day and write down what you think. Every time you have a thought, write it down in a little journal, and then look at it at the end of the day and weigh it. You could even do it in 2 columns, one positive, one negative. Look at what you're thinking and see how it ends up stacking. If you're like most people, it's 80% negative and about 20% positive. And particularly keep a separate column for what you think about yourself. And note that there's almost never a time where you give yourself applause. There's almost never a time that you think anything at all. If you do something positive, you usually don't think about it. If you do something, you don't think, boy, I did a good job there. You wait for somebody else to tell you that. But ordinarily, you only start thinking about yourself when it's something you don't like. I look too fat in that dress. I got a really low grade. I can't stand the way I talk to people. I'm so shy, and on and on and on. The thoughts you reserve for yourself are the worst thoughts you usually have. So just start becoming aware of that and start noting it down. What I'm trying to get you to is to start becoming aware of what it is you're really sending most of the time. Remember, if you're a leaky bucket, you're sending intention with every thought you have. And what you have to do is start looking at what it is you're sending and weigh it up as positive or negative. The other thing I want you to think about is to be careful what you wish for. You know, we talked about being specific yesterday. This is a picture of Heather Mills McCartney, now Heather Mills. And I put it up because Heather Mills wanted more than anything else to be famous. This consumed her as a young person. She was desperate to be famous. And in that process and that intention, she married one of the most famous people in the world. And as a result of that, the press got hold of her and dug up every last skeleton in her closet. And there were many. I mean, she had a background, she had done pornography, she was a prostitute, she had all sorts of things. And now she is one of the most infamous women in England. She's famous, all right, but famous for all the wrong things. So I'm suggesting that you be responsible for your thoughts and what you want, and start thinking about what it would mean. What's the nth degree? And I don't have a value judgment on this, if your real intention is to be wealthy, seriously wealthy, you must think, what are the implications of that? Can I manage that wealth? Can I manage those things? Am I okay with all those things? What am I going to do with my wealth? That will take extra time. Or if I want to be married, are you ready to be married? Can you handle the responsibility of marriage? Or I want a child. Are you ready to step outside the center of your own life? That's what it's going to take to be a parent. So those kinds of questions are things you must ask yourself. And this is part and parcel of the whole idea of identifying what it is you really want. Well, Heather Mills did not want to be infamous, but she just sent out an intention to the world to be famous. And she surely is. She's on every cover of OK and Hello magazine. But it's all the wrong publicity. So be careful and specific about what it is you want. I put up the fact that we all use murderous thoughts because we do, routinely, for illness. Cancer patients have been told to use intention to kill the cancer. Now that's murder. And I have looked and looked at the data on intention, hoping to be able to say to people like you, happy thoughts, positive thoughts, they're more powerful than negative thoughts. But it's not true. The data that's out there, the science that's out there, demonstrates that a negative thought is just as powerful as a positive thought. There have been studies, and many of them, of intention masters, like Qigong masters, sending intention to inhibit a plant or make it grow. And they've used positive and alternating positive and negative intention, sending positive intention to make something grow, then sending negative intention to inhibit it. And they found they have an equal effect. They can stop a plant growing with their thoughts. They can make a plant grow faster with their thoughts. Many studies, remember, you can't really use studies to try to murder people. It's probably going to go against a few ethical reviews. Sometimes we wouldn't know about that in terms of drug trials. You'd think, you think that seems to be a license to get away with murder. But in most cases, we obviously can't send negative intention to people. So what they tend to do with these studies is use bacteria or fungi or something that people don't mind sending murderous thoughts to. And they found that ordinary people can send intention to inhibit bacteria or inhibit fungi or inhibit things like E. coli, which is alternately a blessing and a curse to the human system. And they found they can inhibit it if they want to. So I was interested in this, and I wondered, what's more powerful, sending a negative intention for cancer or what? And there's been one very interesting study about this. It was with a healer who felt uncomfortable about sending negative intention. He felt, if I send negative intention to the cancer, I might miss. My aim might be off that day, and I'll actually hit and kill the host. So he was in the study using 5 different methods of trying to kill cancer cells. In one, he was supposed to send intention to kill them. Another was to send them into the void. Another was one other kind of murderous thought. And then he had 2 that were one was to carry out God's will, and the other was to return things to the natural order of perfect health. He did that intention, and it turned out to be the most powerful. Returning it to natural order and perfect health. Now, the even more powerful one was when he concentrated very specifically on certain cancer cells. So he combined being specific with sending an intention to return to the natural order. Now, this is only one study. It's hard to make any generalizations about it. But this is what I come up with from that. I think that might be all about sending a specific intention, but turning it around in a positive way. So instead of saying, I want to kill cancer cells, and visualizing them dying, and that's what lots of the cancer alternative pioneers talked about. They did a lot of visualization of imagining cancer cells in a kind of battle with your healthy cells, or even imagining the cancer cells being eaten up by a video game like Pac-Man, you know. Those are all kind of negative intentions in a sense. But I think perhaps the more powerful thought is a positive intention of imagining all of your healthy cells, or all of your cancer cells transmuting into healthy cells, or this healthy cells kind of taking reign, or something where you're returning to the natural order. So I hope that's clear, the idea of being very specific, but turning it around in a positive way.